Karla, would you introduce yourself to everybody who's watching so they know who you are?
Sure. I'm Karla Fisher, CEO of Authentic Web Solutions. And I've been playing this improv stuff for about 3 weeks, and it's really awesome.
So I called out Karla. Thank you for yes-anding me, because Karla has been taking our it's our improv level 1 class that we actually offer at our theater that we had to take virtually because the theater is still closed due to COVID. And Karla started taking our improv level 1 class online. And so I've decided, I asked Karla if she would be our Vanna White today and help me demonstrate this exercise. So this is a literal yes and exercise. So as you saw in the previous screen, this is about listening, validating, and collaborating. And it's a literal exercise. So anyone who is an analytical type of person, raise your hand. No, you don't have to. But you might be, if you're analytical, I know what's going to happen. You're going to say, Gina, I would never talk that way. And it's true. You wouldn't have that literal, because this is going to be an awkward conversation.
Mhm.
Carla's like, yes, it is. The reason why we do it. So when we're talking about spontaneity and improvising, again, you were born with that ability. You have the skill to do it. It's a matter of exercising your brain. You have to exercise that muscle of listening, and you have to practice it. So what happens is, if we're not practicing it, the brain atrophies on it and we're losing it. So you have the ability to do this and to exercise and strengthen your brain on it. So we need that structure in place in order to practice it, thus the literal exercise of doing it. We then down the road show you how to get out of the literal way of doing it and how to start applying it to your real business situation. So right now we're just going to give you an overview of what the exercise looks like that kind of builds up from there. So Karla, you're going to start with just a simple phrase, and it's a phrase, not a question. And just for clarity for everyone, the reason why we have to avoid questions on this is because questions put people on the defensive. Now you're going to say, but in sales, we need to ask questions. You do. Sometimes you don't need to ask questions right away. Sometimes you can just say, tell me more, or tell me about, because questions put people on the defensive and you might not get as much information. So in this, they're going to be statements between Karla and I. They're going to be short. And the reason why they're short is because we both have to repeat what the other person said, the last thing we heard them say. And some of us are older and can't retain all that information. So the shorter, the better. But also think about this. Too much information confuses the buyer. So think about how the brain processes. I mean, I've even learned this on our podcast as a podcast interviewer. Our producer constantly coaches me on watch the double question. I have a tendency, as an interviewer, I have to ask questions, but I will ask these double questions where there's 2 or 3 questions in a question, and it totally throws off the guest. They're like, all right, how do I process this? How do I answer this? So when you keep things in shorter bites, especially today, our brains are so conditioned on technology, you keep things shorter, it's easier. And that goes back to making people look good, to make it easy for them to repeat. So they're short phrases. So Karla's going to start with a first phrase, whatever it is. I'm going to literally say yes. I'm going to repeat what I heard her say. Then I'm going to literally say and then I'm going to add something new to it. We're going to go back and forth like that, where we repeat the last piece of the dialogue. It doesn't have to make sense. So this is also retraining our brain to think fast in the moment. Whatever comes to our mind is what we're going to say. If we can't think of anything really fast, we don't put pressure on ourselves. We just wait till something comes to us, and our partner will wait with us. If we have nothing, our partner, we might be like, yes, and I don't know what else to say. Then your partner's like, yeah, you don't know what else to say, and I'll take care of that. So it's don't worry about the failure piece of it. It's just about getting in the moment, saying the first thing that comes to your mind, making sure that you stay in alignment with your partner during the exercise. So, Karla, you're going to start with that first statement.
Nice.
Uh, you're welcome. And we cannot say but, and however is a but, and because is a but. So there are no buts in this. So we might be correcting each other as we go. So, Karla, are you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Give it to me.
All right. I need a unicorn in my business.
Yes, you need a unicorn in your business. And I want one too now.
Yes, you want one too, and I can help you get one.
Yes, you can help me get one. And this sounds like a new business idea.
Yes, this does sound like a new business idea, and I would like to work with you on that.
Yes, you would like to work with me on that. And we probably should drop some legal papers for it.
Yes, we should drop some legal papers for it and sign them.
Yes, and sign them. And I would like to be 51% owner.
Yes, you would like to be 51% owner, and so would I.
Yes, so would you. And we might need a mediator to help us with that.
Yes, we might need a mediator to help us with that. And I have a great connection.
Yes, you have a great connection, and we'll just do that. Okay, good job. Awesome job, Karla. Thanks for the claps. Yeah, if Karla did a good job, feel free to give her a little clap there. That is awesome. Thank you. And
You're welcome.
thanks for that. And Karla, how did that feel? I know you've done this several times, but how did that feel in general to do it?
Um, it's hard to come up with that first statement. So it was literally popping off what came to mind. And unicorns have been on my mind lately. So
Clearly.
yeah.
Clearly,
Um,
that was your spirit animal in the survey.
yes. So, I felt like it flowed, and it didn't feel judgy or anything like that. It just felt like a collaboration, like we were coming to a consensus slowly.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely flowed, and it's, I think, because we've also, you and I have both done this together. If anybody wants to comment on what they saw, feel free to, just kind of like raise your hand or just jump in there if anybody wants to comment on what they saw or they experienced. Does anyone want to say anything about it?
I thought it was funny. I kind of want a unicorn right now and I want to come into business with y'all, but I thought it was just a funny conversation.
Okay, good. And so even though it was a weird structure, you were able to flow with it, Elena?
Yeah, I kind of was like kind of ping ponging back and forth, and it was like, oh my gosh, it's, where did they find this idea? Like of all things, like the unicorn. At first, I was like, oh my gosh, what do you answer to that? And then it came back and forth as a conversation. I was like, oh, actually, it can be done.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. So that, I get this question a lot too. Like, how do you have these conversations that are not sales conversations? Because I often have been telling people, if you're not comfortable selling right now based on what's going on, just do a simple pick up the phone and call someone and be like, hey, how are you? I guarantee, like every time I do that, it literally throws people. When I call to schedule, prospecting appointments, I know somebody put that on the survey that part of your, one of the things you want to kind of overcome is like that process of prospecting. I try to just be human and call and say, how are things in your business? Like, what's going on? Like, how are you guys adapting? Like, this is everyone's talking about what's going on right now. So just having that conversation and then being yes anded mindset on it, of going back and forth. Like, So Karla started out with the unicorn, me validating her helped me come up with the next thing to say. And it gave me time. So even though this is a literal exercise, you can actually use it to help you in the conversation when you're like, gosh, I don't know what to say next. Sometimes when you don't know what to say next, if you just repeat what you heard the person say, it buys you a little bit of time. And then when you repeat it, it also gives you time to process what they said. And in that processing, you're able to possibly come up with the next thing to say. Like, I didn't know what to say every single time Karla came to me with, with what we were doing. But yeah, I was like, then when I thought like this would be an amazing business to sell unicorns. And well, I kind of wanted the 51% share of it. And how am I going to negotiate getting my way over there? Like, we could have gone forever until I'm a pretty good negotiator. There's a good chance I would have ended up 51%. I'm not positive, but there was a good chance. So being in that flow, you can't get stuck in your head. So think about this every time you're in a sales conversation. That person, think about any conversation, that person who is talk, and in your head, you have this inner conversation that sounds like this. Okay, I don't want to forget this. I got to remember to say this. Okay, as soon as she's done talking, I'm going to say this. Okay, don't forget, I'm going to say this. As soon as she's still talking. Okay, eventually she's going to take a breath. Eventually she will breathe, and she's still talking. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to write this down so I don't forget it. And you're literally having this internal battle. Karla's laughing. I'm sure others relate. If you relate, share it in the chat. You're so stuck up here in your head listening to your own voice that you're not fully engaged in the conversation. So just think about that, and if that happens. So you got to get out of your head and having that conversation in your head, because the worst thing that can happen, and I still suffer with this, I'm in my head and then I was like, what in the world did she just say? And then I have to fake my way through the conversation. I'm like, yeah. Right. Totally agree. And I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I don't want to tell them that I wasn't listening. I don't want to tell the person I was in my own head. And this is me who provides this training. So, this exercise is going to help you get better at being really in the moment and really being in the listen. And that's what I said at the top of this, is like the importance of really actively listening to it.